Hey, I'm Erica from the Teacher Next Door team, and let's talk reading centers today, particularly how you can collect student data from reading centers without grading every single piece of paper and without the headache too. I've got a super simple way to do it, and I'll share it with you starting now. So in our upper elementary classrooms, let's talk about how we normally set up our reading centers. We're likely using a carousel format where we've got center 1, center 2, 3, 4, and 5, and so on. And our kids are likely rotating through all of those. Now, this idea fits into these centers perfectly. So say center 1 is a matching activity where students are matching, say, main ideas to details using a paper-based activity, a little more hands-on. And center 2 is where students are completing a graphic organizer after reading a passage. So say we're focusing on center 3 now. How can I kind of track data from that? Because yes, I could go back and grade center 1 and center 2 and kind of take all of the grades from that, but that's seriously going to take me hours to grade all of my kids' center work, hours, right? And I'm not interested in doing that. So instead, I like to use a learning management system. And in this case, I like to use Google Forms because quite honestly, it grades it for me. So within Center 3, I use Google Forms. My students use their devices and then go ahead and answer between 5 to 10 questions on a specific skill and standard that we're focusing on. I do not mix skills. I do not mix standards. We're just focusing on one. Let's talk about main idea some more. So within that center, they might read a passage, a short passage, and then answer a couple questions based upon one passage. There might be a couple passages in there, but I don't ever like for the center to take more than 15 minutes at the longest. The reason for that is because I want kids to be able to still practice this skill and activity, but also shoot me some data back that I can pull up on my computer. So at the end of the day, or at the end of my reading block, I'm going to pull up the Google Sheets, which Google Forms provides to me. I'm going to pull up the Google Sheets and it's going to show my student's name and then their score. What I do with that data is the following day, I pull my lowest students. So say I have 8 students who are scoring less than a 50%. I pull those 8 students within my small group the next day to make sure that I review that particular standard and skill with them, either individually one-on-one or within that small group. That way we can really focus on that skill, see where their gaps are, meet those. I even sometimes just pull up the Google Forms, honestly, and then we go through one by one why we chose the answers that we did and then why one of the other answers was likely the better answer to that. It's a metacognitive process. I find it super helpful when I'm learning. I'm sure you can agree with that. And my students also enjoy that because there's no pressure. This isn't a quiz. It's not an assessment. It's not going in the grade book at all. This is just particularly for reading centers, and it does take some time to set up. I'm going to be honest with you. It does take some training to get your students into the growth mindset that's needed in order to not feel intimidated by that particular center, because they know that that center means that they're just receiving the instruction that they need. Now, with that, you can also take those highest scoring students. So say you have students who score 100% on it the first time that they go through that center. Well, those students are already meeting that proficiency level and maybe they're even exceeding it. So then you can make a data-driven decision to enrich those students with something else throughout the week. Maybe you have a challenge activity, maybe you have a higher grade level activity that matches that, but now you know for sure who needs what in your classroom. So not only are your students who are working in small group with you maximizing their learning, but the students who are working individually or in groups are also maximizing their learning because you're keeping track of how they're doing at that time, and then you're able to provide them with what they need. So, what now? Let's put it into practice, right? Well, here at the Teacher Next Door, we've got free reading centers for you, so you can do exactly this. Our reading centers come with 3 formats. We've got a Google Forms version, which we've been talking about all along. We've got an interactive PDF that's super fun, and then we have a printable version, which has game boards and task cards. So, where can you grab these? If you're a 3rd, 4th, or 5th grade teacher, you can go to bit.ly/free reading centers. Again, that's bit.ly/free reading centers to grab yours. It'll be emailed over to you. If you do grab them, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel here so we know that we should keep putting out this content. Maybe even leave a comment and let us know what you think about them. And happy teaching. We hope that you enjoy them.